Hello, good evening. My name is Reuben Abati. This is a special broadcast of 90 Minutes Africa, and we're doing this exclusively on IrokopostTV. Now, for those who have been following this channel, we broadcast on Dr. Damage's channel. We also broadcast on 90 Minutes Africa. But for this particular interview, we are going to be on IrokopostTV only. So I hope you got the message and you will join us, and I hope you will subscribe to the channel. Starting January, we are moving all our shows to IrokopostTV. That's why we are trying to get people to get used to this, that we are moving to IrokopostTV. Now, for you to be able to comment and join us the way you do, you have to subscribe to IrokopostTV. So people who may be saying they don't see their comments will be because they did not subscribe to IrokopostTV. So we are going to broadcast an interview I had with Professor Chidi Odinkalu on Tuesday on the issue of Dele Farotimi and Afe Babalola. He also spoke on Nasir El-Rufai, Reuben Abati, Nyesom Wike, and others. So I hope you will enjoy the interview. We will have a discussion at the end of the interview. We will have a discussion on what he said and what's going on those issues that are in the news. Once again, I thank you for joining us, and I hope you will stay with us as we watch the interview and take our time to discuss what happened during the interview. Thank you.
Several juniors, about 13, 12 of them or thereabouts. But the legal team is about 16, 17 people and includes 4 senior advocates. The prosecution took objection to the appearance of the...
Hello, welcome to a special edition of 90 Minutes Africa. My name is Reuben Abati. Today we are joining us is Professor Chidi Odinkalu. You all know him. He's a professor of practice in international human rights law at the Fletcher School of Law in Boston. He's joining us to talk about the case of Dele Farotimi, which is ongoing in Nigeria. And he wrote an important essay, which most of you have read, I hope, on the issue. So we want to get him to help us understand where things are today. So Professor Odinkalu, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, my brother. Thanks for having me. Compliments of the season again.
The same to you. So let me start with, we're doing this interview. We just had the court in Ekiti denied him bail. They moved their ruling to December 20th. What do you make of that?
Predictable in many ways, rather perversely. But, the first thing is the court denied... Dele was supposed to be represented. Dele's legal team was to be led, or is led, by Yinka Olumide Fusika, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria, and includes 3 other senior advocates of Nigeria, and then several juniors, about 13, 12 of them or thereabouts. But the legal team is about 16, 17 people, and includes 4 senior advocates. The prosecution took objection to the appearance of the senior advocates on behalf of Dele, and the magistrate, without ruling on that, effectively upheld the objection, and so precluded the senior advocates from arguing the case. So the juniors took over. From what I'm reporting, because I had colleagues placed at the magistrate's court in Ekiti, And I was getting contemporaneous slowdown on reporting as the process was ongoing. And there was a baying mob, essentially, and somebody who is, so first of all, the person who is reporting is from Ekiti himself. So this is not somebody from outside the country. He's native to Ekiti. He went to the university in Ekiti, in Ado Ekiti, not a private university in Ado Ekiti, the state university in Ado Ekiti. And he's a lawyer who graduated from there. And he says, there is no way, I'm quoting this person, this is in quotes, there is no way anyone can get fair hearing in this kind of situation, unquote. Now, that is somebody's impression. But basically, there was a baying mob, and basically the atmosphere was very coercive of anybody other than the most determined of people. And you see, there's an objection to jurisdiction, right? There is a question of bail. And the magistrate adjourns to 20th of December and remands in custody for a crime where the maximum punishment is 2 years, right? Anyone who says that is law would really have to send me to another school. But that's what is happening. And as I said, that was entirely predictable. Nothing in this surprises me.
When you said they refused to allow the senior advocates to lead the defense, what was the reason they gave?
The argument is that the privileges available to senior advocates precludes them, also are supposed to preclude them from appearing before courts that are not superior courts of record, and basically those will be magistrates courts, customary courts, and all of that. However, the Constitution entitles anyone who is charged with a crime to be represented by a legal practitioner of their choice. The only thing in Nigerian jurisprudence that precludes legal practitioner of their choice was recognized in the decision in Awolowo and Usman Sarki, who was Interior Minister then, or Internal Affairs Minister, in 1963 or 62 in Awolowo's treasonable felony case, where Awolowo brought in Mr. Gratian, the QC from England, to defend him in treasonable felony. And Usman Sarki exercised powers under the Immigration Act to interdict his entrance into Nigeria as a prohibited immigrant, and they expelled him from Nigeria. And Udo Doma, who was the judge of the High Court of Lagos, who decided the case then, held in that particular case that a person was entitled to be represented by a legal practitioner of their choice as long as that person was entitled, as the legal practitioner was entitled as of right to practice in Nigerian courts. And that that entitlement did not preclude the exercise of the powers of the Interior Minister in that particular case, to prohibit the entrance of Mr. Gratian. That is the only preclusion, basically, that non-nationals of Nigeria who do not therefore have a right, as of right, to be in Nigeria, can be precluded from being legal practitioners of their choice. But here, you have the court effectively precluding Mr. Farotimi from being represented by legal practitioners of his choice, without actually ruling on that particular issue. That's the very interesting way to go about it.
In your article, you wrote about the Supreme Court establishing this principle using the case of Anyebe. The Supreme Court in Nigeria, is it different from the ways in other countries, like in the United States, where we see, I'm not a lawyer, but I thought that the lawyers obey if there is a precedent and it's established that becomes what people will abide by. Is it different in Nigeria?
That's what we are taught generally in the law schools, in the law faculties. It's introduction to Nigerian legal system, actually. You know, they teach you legal method, including the doctrine of precedent. In Nigeria, of course, it's become the fact that precedent is endangered as a result of where we are, particularly in cases with a political flavor. Things happen sometimes that you cannot really relate to precedent. And, this is one of those, sometimes, you see that kind of jurisprudence or the kind of practice that happens, and you're wondering, where did this come from? But ordinarily, yes, jurisprudence, precedent is supposed to hold good, subject to the Supreme Court either limiting it or overruling itself.
Okay, let me play for you. Your essay was discussed today in the morning show on Arise, and an attorney, a senior advocate of Nigeria, who is a friend of yours, had this to say. So let's take a look at that and get your reaction to his take on your essay. Okay.
Agala, good to see you again. Rufai here. This is Chidi Odinkalu's.
Rufai Fire.
Good to see you, sir. How are you, sir? Good.
Chidi
Odinkalu said 3 years ago, this was part of the article Chidi Odinkalu wrote. It says 3 years ago, Ekiti State enacted into law the criminal law of Ekiti State, number 12 of 2021, which repealed and replaced the state pre-existing criminal code law of 2012. Comprising 9 parts, 429 sections, 140 pages, blah, blah, blah. Section 70 of that only contains the crime of causing disaffection or breach of public place through offensive publication, but it's a simple offense punishable by 6 months. And Odinkalu was saying that's not the issue, in this case. He further said in his article, I quote, he said, last week on the 3rd of December, President of NPF, I said, Dele Farotimi from his residence in Lagos, where the crime of criminal defamation is similarly unknown to law. They raced into state land to Ekiti, where they detained him. The following morning, on the 4th of December, the police arraigned Dele before a magistrate court in the state capital. It is important because the gist of the charge popularly prevailed against Dele Farotimi before the magistrates in Ekiti is precisely criminal defamation, which is not a crime in Ekiti State. What do you respond to? How do you respond to Chidi Odinkalu here?
Well, you see, we are both, Chidi, my friend Chidi is a lawyer like I am. And, if all lawyers agree on an opinion, on an issue, if we all express the same opinion, there will be nothing for the courts to do. And there will be nothing for us to argue. Chidi has expressed his opinion. That is his opinion, which I don't necessarily share. But again, where are we today? Perhaps this is also a litmus test for all of us, and it's going to add to our jurisprudence. The issues have been tabled before the courts. For the advocates like me that may believe that the courts have jurisdiction, we will canvass the argument. The best thing for the lawyers of the defendant in this matter, Mr. Dele Farotimi, what should they do? There have been a lot of talk here and back and forth. First and foremost, bring a notice of preliminary objection and tell the court it has no jurisdiction. Tell the court that this offense is unknown to the laws in the Ekiti State, and let the prosecution also bring forward its argument. And the courts will determine one way or the other. I mean, for me, it is even going to be good for our jurisprudence for the courts to determine one way or the other. However, the leading authority on cross-border jurisdictional issue is the celebrated case of Injovens versus the state, where an offense, part of it was purportedly committed in Oyo State, and Patrice Injovens, I think, Injovens and Rede and the rest of them were tried in court and convicted, and this was upheld by the Supreme Court. So on this subject, it's neither here nor there. A school of thought, like people like me, believe the Ekiti courts and the magistrate court in Ekiti has jurisdiction, while the Chidi Odinkalu also believe it does not. So it's neither here nor there.
All right, let's stop it there. So Was that what happened? What he was recommending? Was that what happened? And
As you can imagine, I mean, Tunde, of course, is my friend. That's true. I get along with Tunde. I like him, and I like to hope that it's requited. And that's about the only thing that we can agree on this particular issue for obvious reasons. First of all, the question of whether or not the crime exists in Ekiti law is not an opinion. It's a matter of fact. And it has to be a matter of fact because that is the foundation of any criminal process. Okay? The Nigerian Constitution requires that for you to try anybody, the crime has to exist in the law of the place where the trial is taking place. Yeah? Now, there is no, he's cited Patrick Njovan's case. Njovan's case was not about the trial in Kwara State where the crime was not in existence. So Njovan's is irrelevant in this matter, talking about cross-jurisdictional or jurisdictional conflicts in criminal proceedings. With the profoundest respect to Tunde, my brother, it's an irrelevance here. And I'm sure he will not dispute what I am saying if you play this back to him. Now, the only argument I've heard them try to make is that it is possible to try in Ekiti State under the Criminal Code Act, which is a federal legislation. And nobody disputes that the Criminal Code Act, by the way, is supposedly supposed to be a federal legislation. Now, here is the story here. The Criminal Code Act does not exist in Ekiti. I will tell you why. Now, the Criminal Code Act began as a colonial ordinance in 1916. At that time, you had only 2 territories in Nigeria, or 3, which was Northern Nigeria and Southern Nigeria with the colony of Lagos. So the Criminal Code Act applied to Southern Nigeria as an entire territory, as a contiguous territory. That entity of Southern Nigeria ceased to exist in 1951 with the creation of, with regionalization and the transition to regionalism. So that law became the criminal code law of, for the regions, for the Western region and for the Eastern region. And the North had its own penal code. When we had, by the time we, and then of course, it also became the legacy legislation on crimes for Midwest when it came into existence in 1963, which then transitioned into the criminal codes of the 12 states in 1967. And so on and so forth until where we are now. Now, each state, the federal government does not make legislation for the states on crimes. The federal government has no general powers for criminal legislation for the states. The federal government only has powers with reference to matters on the exclusive legislative list. So, if you have telecommunications, for instance, which is on the exclusive legislative list, and there is a crime created under that, that is the only area in which the federal government has these powers. Federal government, of course, has powers to make criminal legislation for Abuja as a federal territory. But the Criminal Code Act does not create crimes for states. And one more thing. In 2021, in the CIL and in the case of CIL and Ekiti State, which indeed involved the interests that are active in this particular case that we're talking about, Dele's case, Ekiti State had abolished the Public Officers Protection Law in Ekiti, and they sought to import into that case an argument that the Public Officers Protection Act, which is a federal piece of legislation, should apply in Ekiti when the Ekiti State had legislated it out of existence. And the Supreme Court said no, there was no room to foist on a state as a federating entity a norm which it had itself explicitly repealed, and therefore it overruled the effort to try to make the Public Officers Protection Act applicable in Ekiti State by backdoor. And the parity of reasoning here is very evident. So, as much as I love my brother, I just cannot, in this particular case, see that that he's saying anything that anyone of his seniority can agree with. Number one, because what we're dealing with is not a question of opinion, it's a question of fact. Number two, the Criminal Code Act is no longer law in Nigeria, in Ekiti State. Number three, the federal government does not have any general powers of criminal legislation over Ekiti State. I may even add a fourth issue, which is that the Attorney General of Ekiti State exists and nobody has told him about these proceedings. I think people are forgetting that. Otherwise, you would see Attorney General of Ekiti State. Obviously, the Attorney General of Ekiti State used to be the Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Justice. I suspect, given the balance of forces here, he's decided to lie low. But I suspect that nobody has involved the Attorney General of Ekiti State in these proceedings.
How did the new charges that were filed at the High Court, for those who may not understand the differences, how did they come about? Who decided that there should be a federal, I'm saying I'm not sure what it is, but the charges that were filed by the one that was dismissed yesterday?
No, well, I don't.
Not dismissed. No, not dismissed. The ones that were he was granted bail for 50 million. Yeah,
that's this so-called cybercrime charges, right?
Okay, how did that come about? Who decided to file that?
I don't know how that came about. But it's the same police people who filed it. It is filed by the police.
So if I defame you, if you think I defamed you and you go to magistrate court, how would the federal police now come in to say that they want to? Did they take up the case? I'm just talking like a layman. Did they take up the case from you? How did that happen?
Well, there's a complainant here who wrote a petition to the police.
Yeah.
And the police decided to charge for criminal defamation. I think it was brought to their attention, I suspect, I'm speculating admittedly, but I suspect it was either brought to their attention or they are not very confident that the criminal defamation charges will be sustained or sustainable at the court they've taken it to. And therefore, they've filed cybercrime charges. And this is exactly the point I was making. Cybercrime is a federal crime. Okay? So they filed cybercrime charges before the Federal High Court in Ekiti State, sitting in Ekiti. That's the Ekiti Division of the Federal High Court. And that is where that took place. A magistrate's court is a state court, completely state court with state-defined jurisdiction. And therefore, so the two are notionally different, the magistrate's court and the Federal High Court. So the charges before the Federal High Court are exclusively of with reference to a crime that is supposedly federal.
Why I ask that question is there's a case of Femi Falana and Very Dark Man, where Femi Falana took Very Dark Man to the court. Why is it that the federal police did not file cyber case against, because there's a petition? How did that work out? I'm trying to get to understanding, for people to understand how they jumped in to file that case, the federal case at the federal courts.
I'm not sure that Femi filed any petition with the police.
Okay.
He sued in the High Court of Lagos, I believe.
Okay.
In defamation, which is really what this is supposed to be. Look, the Supreme Court itself, as I pointed out in the piece that you referred to, had said that the crime of criminal defamation was invented in the Star Chamber. The Star Chamber was a very disreputable judicial forum in which began about 15th century England. Yeah. And it was captured, it was arbitrary, it was just entirely disreputable. And it was a persecutory forum. And if the Supreme Court itself describes the forum and the crime as disreputable, invented by a disreputable forum, that's not exactly the kind of crime that should make anyone feel proud about prosecuting in a republic of any sort. Defamation, injuries to reputation are important in the law of torts, in the law of private claims and private civil claims. And what does happen is, or what should happen is, and rightfully, for instance, Kehinde Ogunwumiju, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who is the managing partner in Emmanuel Chambers in Abuja, has sued in the civil courts. And I think that is commendable. I think that's the right thing to do. Okay? Kehinde has sued in the civil courts over exactly the same range of claims at issue in this criminal defamation claim in Ekiti. And so the courts will be able to determine that in civil proceedings in which presumably there'll be even, the sides will be able to present their case freely. That is all anyone can and should ask for. So the invocation here of criminal process in very coercive circumstances that portend or suggest a captured judicial system, I think is what people is what raises the hackles of people. Should people have remedies when they believe their reputations have been injured? Of course they should have remedies, but those remedies are entirely in civil law.
There's one more case I wanted to know if you can explain it for our viewers. The case of a blogger called Ijele and Evangelist Ebuka Obi, where he's still in detention for months now. How can people just pick up anybody by petitioning the police and say this person defamed me and have the person locked up anywhere, sometimes out of their location, move them out of state? Is that a law in Nigeria?
Let me repeat myself. Of course it's not a law in Nigeria. Of course it isn't. Now, the so-called criminal defamation, even where it exists, is a misdemeanor. Now, there are three categories of crimes for this purpose, right? There are simple offenses, misdemeanors, and felonies. And that's a hierarchy of seriousness. A felony is a crime punishable by at least 3 years in prison. It is the most serious category of crimes. Below the category of felonies, you have what is called misdemeanors. A misdemeanor is a crime punishable by up to 2 years imprisonment. Not more than 2 years imprisonment. A simple offense is punishable with not more than 6 months in prison. So now, criminal defamation is a misdemeanor punishable with not more than 2 years imprisonment. How does anyone get detained for it? And generally, by the way, if I may continue along the lines, a crime, an accused person is presumed innocent until proved guilty. We also have prisons that are overpopulated in most metropolitan parts of Nigeria. You have the prison population, according to the prison and correctional service, as it is now called, is populated with the proportion of pretrial detainees, unconvicted persons in the prisons, is over 75% of the people we hold there. So the country does have a self-interest in ensuring that we are not sending into the prisons people who do not belong there. People who are accused of misdemeanors generally do not belong in pretrial detention. And therefore, the preference and practice is to offer them administrative bail. And if they don't get administrative bail, send them, then give them bail at the point of arraignment, court bail, court-ordered bail. Now, you have this situation in which, and quite often on liberal terms, unless the person is a clear flight risk. So here you are. The Federal High Court orders bail for Dele Farotimi at 50 million naira shati for a crime that is a misdemeanor, right? And a 50 million naira bond and shati 50 million. The magistrate's court in Ekiti, for a crime that is also a misdemeanor, decides there is no bail, remands him interminably. And somehow that is supposed to represent the state of the art of Nigerian criminal law and procedure. All of us should be ashamed.
Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you are enjoying the interview with Professor Chidi Odinkalu. We will continue that interview where he talked about Nasir El-Rufai and how Rufai, wanted to give him the same treatment that Afe Babalola is giving to Dele Farotimi. He also talked about Nyesom Wike and his encounter with him where Wike called him internet lawyer and others. But I want to use this opportunity to appeal to you. If you're watching us and you have not subscribed to this, our new channel, IrokopostTV, please do that. We appreciate it. Starting January, we are moving to this channel for all our programs. So we need to get up to 1,000 subscribers before January. And if we do that tonight, we are going to buy 2 books for our viewers in the UK, 2 for our viewers in America, and 2 for those who are watching us in Nigeria. We won't tell you the name of the book until we get to that point. Also, at the end of the interview, I'm going to share the link for those who want to join us for a conversation on what Chidi is talking about and the state of things, that case in Nigeria. So once again, I thank you for joining us. I appreciate all of you. I know this is something new. We don't have all our usual people who are always on the comment section. I hope people will find us here because this is going to be our new home. Once again, thank you for joining us. Let's get back to the conversation with Professor Chidi Odinkalu.
But you're talking about Ebuka Obi and Ijele, by the way. I mean, I vaguely remember. I didn't actually know Ijele was still in prison, in detention, or committed to pretrial detention, by the way. But these tendencies of capture of. By the way, Ebuka Obi is supposed to be an evangelist, isn't he?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Or a general overseer.
Man of God. Man of God.
Yes, but what kind of God is it that doesn't forgive? I'm just asking. These people who preach one thing and do another should stop. By the way, is there anything that his God cannot punish?
Exactly.
What kind of God does he preach to people about when he's going to procure people to put other people away? I don't know Ijele. I don't want to know him. I know whether or not what he said is what I agree with is not my problem. But I also don't think that it is God's business or God's commandment to put some citizens below the law and others above the law. As a matter of fact, I presume Ebuka Obi's holy book is the Bible. Mm-hmm. And if you read the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 1, verse 8, it says something important, that the law is good when it is applied properly. The law is good when it is applied properly. Can somebody please cite that to Ebuka Obi and tell him that I said they should bring that verse of the Bible to his attention?
Very good. Let me see. Will you mind sharing your experience with El-Rufai in terms of something similar to what Dele Farotimi is going through? I think probably you shared it somewhere else. Someone was telling me that you have a story with El-Rufai.
El-Rufai was going to get me abducted in 2019, 2020. You know, on the eve of the election, the 2019 election, presidential election, was scheduled for, what was it, February 17th or thereabouts, or 19th? February 19th, I believe, 2019. And the day before that, on the Friday before that, El-Rufai addressed a press conference, standing by himself in front of his office in Kaduna, in which he claimed that 66 or so about Fulanis had been massacred in Kajuru. And I listened to that as it was happening, and so I called around, I called the police, and the police were denying all of that. And the police eventually actually did say that they told El-Rufai that that was not true. And they discouraged him from making any such claims. Of course, it was the eve of an election. He was fretting about whether or not he could configure the kind of votes he needed to edge ahead and come ahead as the winner of the election in Kaduna. And, Kajuru was not particularly well disposed to him, but had a collection of votes. If they could suppress it, that would make it easier, it seemed to me. So I went on channels and denounced him. And so after he was returned, he instructed that I be charged with incitement and injurious falsehood arising from this emission in which I said what he said was manifestly unfounded, and in respect of which I clearly had the support of the security agencies for the position that I articulated. Now, I'm just providing a background here, but what transpired in terms of the actual facts is that El-Rufai instructed his people to. I was by myself one day, and I got a call. I don't usually take calls from numbers I don't know, but I got a call from this number, and for some reason I picked it up, and it was a law enforcement agent who was calling to bring my attention to the fact that there was a charge against me before this magistrates in Kaduna, and that I had refused to appear on 2 previous occasions. And so they were processing a warrant to pick me up from wherever I could be found in Nigeria, and that I should please do something about it. He said he didn't know who I was or where I was, but that he had been told about me. I didn't think this should be happening to me. This guy came from Kogi State, I believe. So that was the first time I was hearing about this thing. And so I quickly instructed lawyers in Kaduna, and they went. We found the magistrate's court, and the guy had provided the details of that. We found the magistrate's court, and we found the documentation with assistance of the records, with assistance of the court officials. And when we found it, we found out that the charge preferred against me did not even have a charge number. It said on this day from channels in Abuja, I had said this, which constituted incitement, but there was no charge number. And so we filed preliminary objections. We then filed for judicial review of the process and sought an interim injunction, which then became interlocutory thereafter, to restrain the process until the judicial review was heard. The magistrate is now retired. And as he was retiring, essentially, he did, on the day basically that he retired, he did tell us that he did not like what he was told to do, and that he was but that, he was coming to the end of his judicial career and he did not want to be persecuted by the governor or the governor's people. But however, that he didn't feel that doing the kind of injustice, to use his words, that they wanted him to do was good for himself or for the system. So what he did was he was very grateful that we had filed the objection. So he kept the file there until he retired. And as he was retiring, we were having the elections last year, and the governor retired from the government house. So the case died naturally. So in that sense, I was lucky. As I was telling somebody, I was very lucky, because all they had to do was, if they hadn't met the police officer, they would have issued the warrant for me, and I was going to be picked up by people who would relay me somewhere. And then people would say I had been abducted, only to discover me showing up in Kaduna or in a prison in Kaduna under the control of El-Rufai and his forces. And God knows what would have happened. Now, Audumekori was abducted from Lagos. That case is now before the Supreme Court. The High Court found in his favor, awarded substantial damages. The damages were reduced a little by the Court of Appeal, but still found in his favor. The El-Rufai's government has appealed to the Supreme Court. And my hope is that instead of keeping that case locked up in the Supreme Court, the Kaduna State government can simply settle the matter, so that bygones, as Nigerians like to say, will be bygones in that sense. Now, Stephen Kefas was also picked up in Port Harcourt and abducted and sent to Kaduna. He was kept in Kaduna, in the prison in Kaduna, for just under 170 days. Right? So that is just about half of a year, but close to 6 months. Now, so these things are real. And these are not the only people who have been abducted from different parts of the country. But El-Rufai was particularly specialized in this kind of operation. And as I said, I was lucky. A few other people were not as lucky as I was.
So if this could happen to lawyers, ordinary people, what chances do they have to survive in such a system where someone can petition a police? And I'm worried.
Every one of us has a right to be. And that's really why I thought it was important to speak up here. And a lot of people say, oh, well, if you're doing this, it means you agree with Dele or you disagree with Dele, which is immaterial. That's a total irrelevance. By the way, everybody has a right to agree with Dele or disagree with Dele. And, I'm happy to defend those rights, to agree or disagree with them. But whether or not you agree with Dele Farotimi and what he wrote, and as a matter of fact, whether or not you have read what Dele wrote or is alleged to have written, nobody should be put beneath the law. And nobody should own the legal process on the scale that is being manifested in this case. That is the only thing that concerns me, because at that point, any one of us can be liquidated.
Yeah, I want to use this opportunity to say, if you can give us your insights into defamation, what it actually is, and whether the laws, because what we are seeing now, people are feeling that the laws are put in place to protect the big men. And I will get to that when you help us first understand defamation and what it should be. Because some people are not afraid to talk now, and because they may have to go through this. And I've had people on TV saying, even your friend Ogala that I played, if you go for that there was something that somebody said on air. He said that could put you in trouble, the same trouble that Dele was in. So there's now confusion even on what is defamation.
I don't think this is about defamation yet. Unfortunately, this is about due process, in my view. I don't think we've got to the... Now, if you wanted us to discuss defamation, then you can bring up the case filed by Kendo Gunwumi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, against Dele Farotimi. That is defamation. And that I can discuss. But if we're discussing what is happening in Ekiti, it has nothing to do with defamation, in my view. It is about whether the criminal justice system should be operated in this manner. Whether what is being operated, as a matter of fact, in these proceedings is criminal justice. And in my view, it isn't. That's the issue here. And to bring defamation into that conversation is to confuse the subject matter. I don't think we are in the territory of defamation law in relation to whether it is criminal or civil, in relation to what is happening now. And you will see that the magistrate is not even discussing defamation, because if you're discussing defamation or trying for criminal defamation, you cannot refuse bail. You cannot make remand mandatory. Those are two basic things. So to try to bring defamation into that conversation is to confound the matter. So if the magistrate wants to try for defamation, the first thing is you take an application for bail. You recognize that the offense is bailable. If then you do not want to grant the person bail, the magistrate has a legal obligation to provide reasons why they must remand someone who is charged with a misdemeanor. Right? So this is the criminal law that we are supposed to practice. It is the one I was taught. So this one that is happening in Ekiti is to use the expression of the Supreme Court, it's an invention in Star Chamber. I don't understand it. And I don't think any lawyer in good conscience can understand it.
If you watch the AriseTV show today, you
unfortunately I didn't.
No, I know you didn't. It's just happened before you came on. You see where
I was actually teaching, unfortunately.
Okay, where Ogala was talking about Babalola in glowing terms, in big terms, in such a way that he's beyond being questioned. What role does that have to do with his position in legal field, with how we perceive this issue and this process? Because it appears everybody had to be careful how they step around discussing this because of who he is. Is that a factor? Why should that be a factor? Why are lawyers? Do they owe him? What is going on in terms of people don't seem to be talking from their hearts or what they feel about this issue? It's all about his reputation for 60 years, what he has brought to the legal profession.
Look, as you can see, I've really avoided discussing any person in this particular matter because I really don't think that is relevant. I did my youth service in Ibadan in 1988. I was, I transitioned out of my teens in Ibadan, okay, quite literally. And do I know Emmanuel Chambers? Of course, I know Emmanuel Chambers. Did I pass through Emmanuel Chambers? Have I visited Chief in Emmanuel Chambers? Absolutely, I have. And do I have kind things to say about him? Yes, I do. But that's an irrelevance. I could even go further. Members of his family are my good friends, including some of his children, all right, who are my classmates. And so I have nice things to say about him, but that is really that's entirely beside the point. The issue is, should citizens be equal before the law? It's nothing more than that. It shouldn't be about, is Rudolph my friend? So if Rudolph is my friend, there's a brand of law for him. If Chidi is my enemy, there's a toxic brand of law for him. No. So I grant Tunde Ogala, his entitlement to admire whomsoever he wants. He doesn't know whom I admire, and he doesn't know whom you admire. But if the way the law is applied is determined by whom we admire, or if the reach of rules is determined by the admiration we have for those whom we come in contact with when rules are being applied, then it's no longer law. And that's where I disagree. Now, do I think there should be remedies for injuries to reputations justifiably earned? Absolutely. Is that what is happening, in my opinion, in Ekiti? No.
All right. One day we'll bring you in. Maybe when this process is done, we can talk about defamation, because a lot of people really are confused about what it is and how it's practiced in terms of how you defend yourself. Let me, for instance, play a small video for you. This is an interview I had with Omoyele Sowore and he tried to compare the process because he's gone through that process in America here and in Nigeria. So let's look at what he said about the differences and get your take on
that. By making sure you don't get the details of the case files, or you are not even served subpoena or summons of the case. Because they want to win, most importantly, they want to win, and they want to prove to the court that they defeated you without a trial. But it gets complicated in the US because to prove libel here, you have to jump a lot of hoops, and fortunately, you have to be able to really prove that the person libel you. But in Nigeria, you don't have opportunity to question the person who say you libeled him. You don't have opportunity to subpoena documents. In the US, you can. So, and you don't have several other opportunities that present itself here where the court provides you opportunity to, when you move beyond challenging jurisdiction and all that, to question even your adversaries.
All right. So if you can briefly help us, is there a difference in the way it's practiced? Why in Nigeria it seems to be favoring the powerful?
No, but did you hear what he said? Again, he's not discussing defamation. He is talking about legal procedure. People, and I have been at the receiving end of that too. People file cases, and then the court processes start working in very wonky ways, in ways that are not provided for in the rules, so that there is an end run to the process, and they manufacture victory, in quotes, without having to go through a trial. Essentially, what you have is that is a privatization of our court systems, right? By all manner of influence peddlers, at different levels, whether it's at the customary court level, or at the high court level, court of appeal level, Supreme Court level. But I'm not saying that's what is happening at the Supreme Court, mind you. I'm describing the different levels of courts, right? And I'm saying at many of these levels, and you've seen allegations of different forms of perversions of the process from the High Court to the Supreme Court. Allegations. But it's not just allegations, it's also that, in 2004, when he was retiring, Justice Uwaifo did warn that he hoped that what the perversions he was seeing in terms of things that should not be happening in the judiciary would not make their way to the Supreme Court. That was 2004. By the time Justice, what's his name, who retired from Niger, Datijo Muhammad, retired last October, he was certain that those things had climbed up to the Supreme Court and maybe even overtaken the Supreme Court, right? So the High Court level had been conquered, Court of Appeal level, they conquered, Supreme Court level, they have got into. That's the kind of thing that we're dealing with now. And you see that in some of the decisions that we have in political cases or election petition cases. The kinds of judgments that made a state governor out of a person who came forth in an election, for instance, or the kinds of judgments in which somebody like a senator from, a serial legislator from Anambra State could go to the House of Representatives 2 times and to the Senate once without ever having won an election, right? Or the kind of election that sent, the kind of judicial opinions that sent Ugochukwu to the Senate in 2003, when 2 justices of appeal were fired by the president then at the recommendation of the NJC because they collected bribes in order to make Ugochukwu senator in an election in which he wasn't even a candidate, right? So that is the kind of thing we now have. And that is the problem with, these are procedural issues. They are not substantive. And people develop fears about the judicial system because of the fact that these non-substantive things are depriving people of the benefit of fair trial or fair judicial process and bringing the judicial system into disrepute, deservedly or undeservedly, justifiably or unjustifiably. But the impression created is of a judicial system that is liable to capture from private actors as by state and corporate entities.
Thank you so much. Let's one more thing, then we just touch on a few things outside of this issue. There was this story in all the media out there about a cable from U.S. cable that had accused. I want to be careful to make sure I state the way it is. People are careful now, but it says that there was a kind of bribery involved in Bonnie Haruna's case, and he mentioned Afe Babalola. So something like that, if you're an editor of a newspaper and you have to publish it, and it's based on a cable from leaked U.S. cable, what is the expectation? Do you have to verify? Is that enough to say this is an accusation, this is something? Do you have to fear that you might be sued to prove that? You understand what I'm saying? There's this question that editors are battling with now. Do you have, if someone sues you to say, prove that this was true, but this is a cable from the U.S. diplomatic cable to the...
No, you don't have to prove that this is true. I mean, that's privileged. Okay, that's the defense of privilege is available in the tort procedure in a tort claim. So that's fairly straightforward. However, that is only if the court systems work as they are supposed to. In the kind of judicial system that we've been describing here, nothing works the way they are supposed to work. And so it can no longer be taken for granted that you can present yourself in a court in that kind of system and run the kinds of defenses that the law necessarily entitles you to run and expect those defenses to be upheld or at least examined objectively, right? Otherwise, if you were in that kind of situation, as you've described now, as an editor, you can publish it as an allegation because it's a weighty allegation, but that's all it is. You're not saying this is what happened, but the fact that the United States diplomatic political affairs officer or with the clearance, therefore, of the ambassador has committed this to paper to relate to their country is itself information, it's itself fact, and it is newsworthy, right? And that was not, I mean, this in the same sequence of US diplomatic cables, for instance, you'd probably see that there was another cable by the then US ambassador, I believe, Robin Sanders, reporting a conversation she allegedly had with the then Speaker of the House of Representatives, Dimeji Bankole, alleging that money changed hands in relation to the decision-making on the presidential election petition between Yar'Adua and Buhari in 2007, 2008. Now, is that necessarily true? I don't know. But is the fact that such a cable was sent by the US ambassador claiming to have been so informed by somebody as senior as the Speaker of the House of Representatives? I think it is. Is it newsworthy? Absolutely. Would a claim of defamation be sustainable against an editor publishing that? Absolutely not, because there is an effective legal defense if the courts work as they are supposed to do. Mark those words, if the courts work as they are supposed to do. In the kind of courts that we've been discussing, I cannot give such a guarantee. Sorry, I think you're muted. You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I wanted to share that document, so it was blocking it. All right, so in that case, so there will be a chilling effect, you know, if people are going to be concerned about the kind of process we have in Nigeria and whether they are free to publish.
Of course, there is a chilling effect. And I'm glad you use that expression, chilling effect, because that is exactly what it is. And that is what this entire thing is seeking to achieve. It is a Nigerian version of SLAP, strategic litigation against popular participation. But at this time, basically, this is the latest manifest. This is a version of a manifestation of capture of state institutions. And there is now ample evidence, in my view, that the judicial sector in Nigeria, the accountability sector particularly, even more, of which the judiciary is only a part, is captured and can be instrumentalized at will and at whim for whatever those who have captured it wish to seek. And in doing so, they will make claims of rule of law. And there is very little of law in what we see happen.
All right. Once again, thank you for joining us. And I hope you are enjoying this conversation we had with Professor Chidi Odinkalu. We have about 20 more minutes of that conversation to share with you. And then we are going to have a conversation ourselves on what he talked about and where the case is today. In the meantime, I just want to remind those who are joining us, this is our new home, IrokopostTV. We are moving here permanently on January 1. So we want to give you an opportunity to see the house, see how it looks, and to be part of it. One way of being part of it is to subscribe to this channel. We need to get 1,000 subscriptions before we can do all the things we are used to. You can see we don't have the people with spanners. They are not yet here. There are tools that you are not allowed to have until you have 1,000 subscribers. So please, you can help us by subscribing to this channel. And we have a few hundreds, about 200 people left to get to 1,000. So we can have the tools. If we can get it today, we are going to buy books for people in Nigeria, people in America, and people in the UK. We have a good offer from one of our members who cares about people and about reading, and he's giving us that option if and only if we get to 1,000 subscribers today. That's his condition, not me. Again, thank you so much. And immediately after this interview, about 20 more minutes of it, we are going to come in. I will share the link so that we can come into the studio and have a conversation on what he's been talking about and where things are with the case in Nigeria. Once again, thank you. We are going to return to the conversation now. Okay, let's touch on a few more things. I know you have to run. So there was the Simon Ekpa arrest in Finland and the declaration of Biafra, that the process that they went through there. I don't know if you followed it and if you think what you think about that.
Well, I do think that it was long overdue to ask questions of Simon Ekpa as to justify some of the things he's been saying and doing and orchestrating from Finland. And I'd like to hope that he can. But in any case, he goes through the legal process, and the legal process would run its course in Finland. He says he heads Brigi, isn't it? Biafra Republic government in exile. He's as prime minister. He's no longer there now, and he's not likely to be there at least until his next court appearance, which is next year. While that happens, this young woman in the United States appears to have taken over the reins. And it seems to me as if things are not together at the moment. I've heard some ructions and things happening, some disagreements over money. I'm not in their structures. I don't have any specific evidence, but I'm hearing quite a good deal to suggest that to implicate a theory that I've heard for a long time, which is that this is about money. And the disagreements they are having are not ideological. They are not institutional. They are about instructions that have gone out from this young woman in the United States, instructing people to pay their contributions of whatever money this is about into a different set of accounts from those controlled by their detained prime minister or incarcerated prime minister. And so that theme of money, it seems to me, has been consistent in this Biafra struggle, in quotes. I use struggle in quote here. And my hope is they are going to find a way to convince the world that this is not the latest episode of money making by people who cannot find other ways of living legitimately, because it is squalid. And I put it rather mildly, if that is exactly what they are doing.
In the East, there are changes. I wanted to know, I've not been there, and I've been trying to get from people to get a view of, like, sit at home on Monday. Is it still going on? Do you know if there is an impact on the security or the business environment in the East?
Which kind of impact? Of course,
what
there is
I mean
an impact.
What I mean is, whether there is still being enforced, or whether people are now free to come out and
there is obviously an impact. I mean, you know where Oyagu is, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you go, Oyagu sells on Sundays now, like it's without fail, and on Monday it thins out. So people, including the churches, have also adapted their doctrine, right? And that is how you know, because the churches are very effective in most parts of the Southeast. Now, and the doctrine, of course, was remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And so people didn't go to markets on Sundays. But Sundays have become economic activity days now in lieu of Mondays. And in some places, studies continue until Saturday, because Sunday and Monday, people have adapted in that sense, have become days of rest. So the question answers itself. Currently, the sit-at-home is still effective in quite a good many places around the region. And I think until our politicians reimagine themselves in the spirits of the people and capture the hearts and minds of people, that is probably going to continue in some form. As sit at home, or rather avoiding activities on Mondays in many parts of the Southeast has almost become a habit. So people have adapted, and it's even going to be more difficult if, assuming all of this insecurity were to end today, it may not be that easy to ask people to return to the life before Monday sit at home. I hope I don't overestimate it, but it may not be that easy.
Wow. All right, one last question. I know it's over an hour now. Your friend Wike recently described you as an internet lawyer. So this exchange you had with him, not really an exchange, you responded to him, and he lashed out us. What do you make of him and a character like him in the federal capital, especially with what we saw when the Prime Minister of India came and his behavior? What do you make of him?
Look, I respect the office of the Minister for the FCT because it's a very important office in the country. The FCT is a symbol of Nigeria's coexistence. And precisely because of that, I think we've got to hold the feet of the occupant of the office on fire, to fire at any point in time. We've got to ask the person to comport themselves in ways that do credit to the sovereign standing of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. it's not a republic for you or I or the minister alone. It's the republic for all of us and for everyone who is going to subsequently be part of that republic, and for those who have come before us. Now, look, internet lawyer, where do people get their information now? Material is it not on the internet or internet professor? So I'm not at all worried about being described as internet lawyer. He uses devices and he relies on the internet every day, right? Now, so he's not denying my credentials as a lawyer. So I'm not interested. Wike became a lawyer in 1998. By that time, I had been a lawyer for over 10 years, in Nigeria at least, right? And I have put in work in all manner of places. I have never been paid a salary by the Nigerian government or any institution in Nigeria except as a youth corper. I want Wike to say the same thing. The man has not had a legitimate life outside the Nigerian state. Okay? So I can understand the inferiority complex of someone like that, whose entire existence has been dependent on sucking from the feeding bottle, from the sovereign feeding bottle of Nigeria. Entirely. Legitimately and illegitimately. I can. Because Wike cannot tell me. If he can, let him please do so. But Wike cannot tell me that everything he has acquired and owns at the moment can be accounted for in terms of the legitimate earnings that he has had, number one, as a local government chairman, number two, as a chief of staff to the Rivers State governor, number three, as a minister of a junior minister for education under President Jonathan, number four, as a governor of Rivers State for 2 terms, and now as the FCT minister. If he can add up his earnings legitimately, including allowances legitimately, and be able to account for his acquisitions in terms of those legitimate earnings, let him say so. I can account for what I own and anything credited to me in terms of my legitimate earnings. I want Wike to say the same thing. If he can say that, I will be on the same pedestal. If he cannot, I am superior to him.
Yeah, I know.
And so I can understand that he is acting out his inferiority, his moral and ethical inferiority in relation to me. And for that, I cannot blame myself. I have lived legitimately. I can account for everything I have, everything that is attributed to my name. I invite Wike as a minister and as a lawyer and as a citizen to say exactly what I have said here. When I was chair of the National Human Rights Commission, I published my assets. They are still available online. I have not borrowed to send my children to school. Okay? I want him to just say something similar. I have not stolen from anybody to send my children to school. No, I have not. I want him to say the same thing. And the only thing I want him to say, the only thing I have is what I could legitimately earn in these offices I have occupied. That's all. Let him publish his assets. Let him publish his asset declaration forms. At that point, I will see him and myself as equals. If he cannot do any of these things. He cannot mop my shoes. No.
I don't know when next we are going to have you on the show. So whenever I have someone like you, I try to see if I can exhaust all the questions we have. There's one thing I wanted to know if you can weigh in on that issue. Recently, there was this thing about Igbo people and not selling land to outsiders. I know you saw that. What is your take on that? Because these things they have a way of sticking if there are no pushbacks, and people tend to jump on that. And so, what is your take on that issue?
Which one be Igbo people?
No, you saw Reuben. You saw. I wasn't prepared for that. I know, but I wanted to know what you think, because there are so many bits about different people. People putting out what they're generalizing about people, and it's not just Igbo people. There's some for Yoruba, Hausa people, and people carry it along. And how do we get to a point where we have to go deeper in our understanding of the people who make up that country?
No, look, I'm sure in hindsight, Reuben may wish to watch again what he said. The version that I saw, I can only describe the version that I saw of what he said on that Arise television morning show, was that he had attended that Tos Benson.
Theo Benson, yeah.
Yeah. Tos B had said at a gathering at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs that he was married to a woman, an Igbo woman. He had an Igbo daughter. And then he said, Reuben said, if anyone wants to controvert me, let them controvert me. He was married to an Igbo woman. He had an Igbo daughter, and he went to his in-laws to ask them to give him land, and they did not give him land. And therefore, and then, it was going on about Igbos not selling land. I don't want to be too hard on him, but the whole thing, the whole line, just what he said, sounded pitiful. And I'll tell you why. Number one, he did not give the event at which this thing took place. Number two, he did not give the date, month, or year in which it took place. T.O.S. Benson had served in the cabinet of government at independence and was a public figure all through his life, post-independence, right? And so did he go to the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs before and after Reuben was born? Probably he did. How many times? None of us knows. On which occasion did he say this? Nobody can tell. How are you going to verify this thing that only Reuben heard? Okay, so the question of verification is out of the question. Now, I go even further. T.O.S. Benson came from a very powerful family in Ikorodu, right? One of his brothers is the former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Babatunde Benson. Another one, Bobby Benson, was a very famous musician. So the Benson family in Ikorodu is very well known, and has movers and shakers into their current generation. Now, did T.O.S. Benson have an Igbo wife? Yes. The Igbo wife was married to him in Ikorodu. And did they produce a daughter? According to T.O.S. Benson, yes. I was up in court against T.O.S. Benson in 1991 before Justice Kessington in Lagos. And he came in with his daughters, and he actually harassed me with the idea that I was Igbo and he had daughters with an Igbo wife in open court. So I witnessed this, and we actually fought on that day, and Justice Kessington, Nureni Abiodu Kessington, had to summon me into chambers. I'm not going to say what transpired because that's another conversation if I live long enough to write my memoirs. But now, did he have children with the Igbo wife? From what he told me in court in November 1991, yes, he did. Now, I have told you the court. I have told you the judge. I have told you the month. And I can tell you my client that I was representing on that day. It was a Thursday in November 1991. Yes? The name of my client was Bob James. Okay? Now, Reuben has not provided any of these details. But even if, so let's assume now that T.O.S. Benson had a child with his Igbo wife. How does that child become an Igbo daughter? An Ikorodu man in a patrilineal society who has a child with a woman from another, married to a woman from another community or ethnicity in Nigeria, the child belongs to Ikorodu. No, be so? So on his own rendition, his story does not make sense. And it is not possible, therefore, for anyone to controvert him. He has said what he wants to say, and he should feel proud of what he wants to say. Speaking for myself, quite honestly, I think the greater issue was how he behaved to his colleagues on the show. I think that was offensive, and I'm not going to mince words about that. Nobody deserves to be treated the way he treated the colleagues on the show. The thing about Igbo people for me is, piffery. I'm not really exercised about that, but I do not think that. I hope that he can on screen apologize for the way that he treated the female colleague who tried to raise that issue. It's not a question of whether or not you agree or disagree with anyone, but we can address these issues without being, while comporting ourselves in ways that respect colleagues, particularly colleagues with whom we work, because human dignity matters. Dignity is important. And at the end of the day, when we all work together, we should dignify one another. That's the minimum we owe everybody. I don't think the female colleague was treated with dignity. Ojey Okpe, no.
All right. One last thing. This is a good way to end this conversation. A friend of yours, when I use friend, I put it on quotes.
I have a lot of friends.
You have a lot of friends, yeah. Said something that I didn't. I was surprised when I saw that, but let me play that for you and get your take.
I am from the northern states. For the past 30 years, we've been called educationally disadvantaged. Okay? We are given lower cut-off scores to catch up. Have we caught up? It has only made people lazy. So, I'm sorry, madam. I'm sorry. I don't think we should hide behind fairness and say that everyone must be equal. The best we can do is to give people equal opportunity. Yes, Today, we live in a country in which, for federal government colleges entrance exam or JAMB, one state has a cutoff of X, and another state has a cutoff of 10 times X. And you say you are building a nation. You are not. You are creating bitterness from the grassroots.
So, Michael Kingsley wrote that a gaffe is when a politician spoke the truth by accident, something like that. Were you surprised that this is coming from El-Rufai?
No.
Why not?
Because he is a populist. Now, at this particular time, it suits him to say this kind of thing because he is trying to forge a coalition with elements in southern Nigeria in order to mount a political insurgency either in 2027 or in 2031. And I don't know when he said this, but he clearly has political ambitions. I want to assume he said this while he was still governor of Kaduna State. But he does have longer-term aspirations. He has had aspirations to be governor of Nigeria, to be president of Nigeria since when Obasanjo was in power. Those aspirations are still alive. And now, as a governor, the only other thing he could see himself doing, because when you read his memoirs, he says quite clearly that he does not like advisory roles, or he wants to exercise executive power. And the only other thing he can see himself doing, therefore, is the presidency. He cannot be a legislator because that is too much waste of saliva. In that case, he needs to build a coalition, a different kind of coalition. This kind of thing enables him to popularize himself, in quotes, with elements in southern Nigeria, because he believes he has established his own visceral northernness, right? Enough. And on that side of northern identity and northern irredentism, almost, few people can outflank him. Now he just needs to pivot and do enough to be able to construct a new coalition with the South. That's what I believe he's doing. Do I believe him? I will not even believe that his name is El-Rufai.
Thank you so much, Professor Odinkalu. It's been wonderful having you. And hopefully in no distant time, you'll join us again for a live show so that people will get the opportunity to interact with you. Thank you.
No, thanks a lot, my brother. And thanks in particular for what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate this. Thanks.
Okay,
Jessica.
Okay.
All right. All right, that was our interview on Tuesday with Professor Chidi Odinkalu, and I want to thank you all for watching. And we are going to open up the platform for the first time. We're coming to you on IrokopostTV. We've never done this before, so these are the first people to come on screen on the screen on IrokopostTV. Thank you, Show. Thank you, John Abba. And this will be our new home. The furnitures are still very new, so be careful, people. Thank you, all the people who are in the comment section. We appreciate you. We see our usual friends, Dr. Alexander Gomez, Lighthouse Queen T.A. Orga. Thank you all for following us to this platform. I know it will take some time. Deshina John, I know it will take some time for all our people to move here. Tomorrow, actually, we'll be on a regular platform. And on Sunday, again, we'll be on a regular, Olga, I see you. Care Africa, I see you. We'll be on a regular platform. But we will gradually come over here because in January, we are moving here permanently. So thank you, everybody. Show, welcome to the show. I see KJ, welcome. And for those who want to join us in the after conversation. So let me start with you, Show. Yeah, it was 1 hour, 17 minutes. Any surprises? What's your take on
good evening to you, Dr. Rudolph, KJ, and John Abba, and also to the guys in the comment section. Good to have you here. It feels different. It feels like it echoes. You know, we're still putting things in place. And I was joking. I said, let me quickly mark my territory. It's a new property, you know, and Wike should not come and bulldoze my property. Just leave my property alone, you know. But it's good to be here. No surprises. It's always a pleasure listening to Professor Odinkalu. Wise man, intelligent, articulate, speaks well. So I quite enjoyed it. Yeah, no surprises at all.
All right, KJ.
Congratulations, Dr. Damages, on your new studio.
For the new house.
For the new house. Yeah, I can see. Me too, I need to mark my territory and make sure that no one takes it. I usually like to put no-go, stop on my door so that people don't come in. All right, I didn't expect anything less. Chidi Odinkalu has been somebody I've followed for years, and you know all his activities and all that. So, again, his last answer really intrigued me because exactly that's what I feel. I probably would have, in fact, he puts it better than I would have put it. Earlier on, I commented about that same speech that El-Rufai made. He's just pandering to the new people he wants to go up to get him to where he wants to go. It's a typical thing, you know. Northern politicians use that a lot. So he's trying now to see who he can, you know. Of course, he knows, just like he said, in the north, he has a large following. So what he's looking for now is that same number or more from South East, most probably, to go along with him. Again, on the Nigerian judiciary, you see the way he was able to, remove the skeleton, remove the flesh over the skeleton, and you can see how dirty has been over the years. It has been dirty not today, just that one man who had the courage to put it in book form and call names is the one who is being looked at now, and they're going to do everything possible to make sure that Dele pays a high price So at any of you, like Jonaba or Sho, who is thinking of writing something like that, will just shy away and not go near that, because that is a system that we have built over the years that keeps trying to look for how to oppress those who speak out. I mean, in another client, people like Odinkalu is people that will be brought in and their character, duplicated in many states so that people, can have people like that all around. Because when he was in human rights, I mean, people didn't behave. In fact, I don't know, I'm still trying to remember if it was during his time. There was a law introduced in Abuja, where if you park and pay, in fact, nobody even knew it was given to a company. And you may enter the bank and you park by the road. By the time you come, they are already towing your car, and then you have to go and pay all kinds of charges. But those ones were made to go away. I cannot remember if it was still this time, but eventually it was challenged and taken away. That was when Nigerian courts were still being Nigerian courts. Unfortunately, it is not what it is now. So I enjoyed it. It's something that we need to go back and listen again. It's an archive material, so I will put it, somewhere in my, and use it. I will listen to it small, so I can exhaust all the juice in it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, KJ. Jonaba, welcome.
Rudy, thank you for having me show KJ and Righteous Mind in Darkness. You blended very well. And, I watch it from the beginning to the end, and he walk on the fine line when it comes to the Baba Lola and Dele issue. He says about the law, it's not about the personality involved. And he articulated his message. He's a brilliant guy. But what I was surprised with you asking him about the land issue, to whom Abati issue, Reuben Abati, I don't hate him, or I don't necessarily, it doesn't matter to me. He's a guy, he's a bully. I don't respect bully. But then one thing I want to ask is that I want to speak is that to the Igbos and people like you, Rudy, I think you guys can articulate the message and change the narrative in a better conversation about how land is in the East. There are, and it's similar to what they have in Benue. When you have your ancestors' home property, it's different from other kind of property people sell, maybe by the market size and all of that. And some people doesn't do that, and that is one of the reasons why people. Hold on one second, please. 1 second.
All right. While we wait for Jonaba
Are you okay?
to come
I'm good. Close the door. I don't know why you don't use your listening. Hello, are you with me?
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah. So it's good it's not like you to articulate the message to the people to understand that those are the things that happens on property. If you are asked to sell it, you may not get it. And also that is why some people bury people in their home. There are many ancestral homes where they bury their loved ones. Those property are not meant to be sold like that. And so many things contributed to it. And few people go to the East that are not Eastern that actually do business around there. So I think you guys could have articulated the message instead of Reuben issue. That can be similar issue that, yes, there are property in the East that cannot be sold to you based on so thing that they don't do that in that area. If some other people or other culture does it, that is fine. But it's not a big deal. I enjoy him. He's a good man. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jonaba. Let's hear from Righteous Man.
Yeah, good evening from here, Dr. Professor Rudolph and Jonaban, KJ, and Sho. In fact, tonight has been one of the best time I've ever had in your platform. The interview was excellent. You're conducting the interview, you were really cool, smiling. Sometimes you put word across to, choke him up. But the man is a fantastic man. I really appreciate the time he has spent in the four walls of classroom. I appreciate it. His analysis was fantastic. This interview is one that one can preserve for upcoming generations to listen to. In fact, I'm going to forward it to one of my sons that is into law department to listen to his analysis about the controversial issues that is befalling this country today. But there was a submission you made that I do not agree with you, not him, where you mentioned, I'm not a fan of Zion Ministry, that is Evangelist Ebuka, and the man in question, Ijele. I don't know if you have actually followed Ijele case. I don't think it's Ebuka that is holding Ijele. Ijele got himself into trouble in so many ways. There are some personalities and individuals in Nigeria and even overboard that he rubbished their personality. He even demanded that he's going to assassinate them. There are a lot of videos that this young man made that, in fact, you begin to wonder the kind of family he comes from. So I think it's a collective sin. It's not only one case that is holding him. There's one prophet from Delta State they call Jeremiah. What he said concerning that man and the mother of that man and how he will handle the man was something extraordinary. What he said about Nnamdi Kanu, how he will help to assassinate him was something else. So it's not about Evangelist Ebuka. The guy's sin, the cup of his sin was filled up. And I think nature caught up with him. So it's not about Zion Ministry. The guy is a wayward man. I have a lot of videos, a lot of things he had made, pronunciation he has made that you begin to wonder. This guy had lived in Turkey before. He was repatriated, deported down to Nigeria. Having lived in the outside, in the Western world, exposed to a lot of things. He even said he was a lecturer in one of the institutions in Turkey. I wonder why somebody of that pedigree will come to social media and begin to say things that is not good to be heard, by same people. So nobody should call Evangelist Ebuka on this issue. To the best of my knowledge, why he was picked up.
All right, righteous man. Let me just say that in all these cases, the issue is really about process. We are not interested in the individuals. On paper, the petition that kept Ijele locked up came from Evangelist Ebuka. There might be other things you don't agree with Ijele. I don't know what he does, but the point we are making is that there is no reason, no matter what the person said about anybody, if you are suing them for defamation or whatever, the person should not be locked up forever. How would they even defend themselves when they are locked up? And they are not going to run away from the country. If there's a risk of them running away, the court has a way of dealing with that. But there's no reason to lock up somebody because you wrote a petition. You can write a petition against a show now and the lock up show, and then we'll be here campaigning for show to be freed. It doesn't work that way in other places. That's what we're saying. I'm not interested yet. Just like Chidi Odinkalu said, it's not about defamation at this point. We're not saying that what Dele Farotimi wrote was right or that there is proof, or that's not the issue. The issue is that he shouldn't be treated that way because anybody else could be treated that way. And this structure we have in place favors only the rich and the powerful, not the poor, not regular people. And they use it to shut people down. And you're going to see the impact of this in months and weeks to come, because people are going to be afraid of talking. Nobody has the kind of 50 million. If you put 50 million on my head now, for me to get somebody from Ekiti, I will call Show. Show will tell me I'm not from Ekiti. And I'll call my friends in Akure. They say, we are not in Ekiti, or we're in Ondo. And then I'll be screwed. So, so you have to be careful what we support. We're not saying don't go to court. That's not what we're saying. If you feel that somebody wrote something or said something that damages your reputation, you can go to court, just like Falana did. The very dark man is now locked up. He has opportunity to go and defend himself whenever the case comes up. He's not running away from the country. But you are not going to lock somebody. Look at what Chidi said, that 75% or so of people in Nigerian prison are people waiting for trial. And most of them are not violent cases. It shouldn't be that way. All right, Kenny, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for that update.
Thank you, Dr. Damages.
Sorry, Kenny. Now, Yoruba woman you marry, it be like say that food hot, the pepper too much. As I can see the fire, the pepper.
Are you prophet?
No, the way you enter, I can see, because you said
no,
it's not Yoruba.
You are 100%. You are 100% correct. Personally, I don't eat pepper, but today I decided, you know what, the cold is too much. Let me warm my body, and my body is really warm now right now.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a lot of pepper. You are right. Dr. Damages, good to hear your opinion. You know, sometimes it's good to, hear from you. You see, there is no way we pick and choose when it comes to justice. If you're a man that stands for honesty and stand for justice, no matter how you try to dent yourself, the truth will always come out. And this is what you are, a man that stands for justice. And this is why I always encourage us, no matter what, we should have a stand. See, we always come here to talk against injustice. But it seems that sometimes we pick and choose the kind of justice we want for the nation or for other people. I don't like Ijele. You all know that I don't like Ijele because he attacks my Nnamdi Kanu. Because of that, I don't like him. But I will not say because he attacks Nnamdi Kanu or because I don't like him and I wish him bad or I wish him dead or I wish him being maltreated the way he's been maltreated in Nigeria, because he don't have somebody that will speak for him or somebody that will stand for him. Ebuka Obi on several occasions come up on live TV and threaten, brag with the kind of people connections he has in Abuja. He has sons, he has Bilodias, that reckless guy of Ebuka Obi. He pride himself. I don't know what gives him that kind of guts, but he always come up and pride himself in nonsense. A supposed prophet shouldn't be doing. That is where you find him. Sorry, he's not a prophet actually. A support businessman. Now, Ijele was picked up. He was not given the chance to go to court. They just lock him up and they begin to jottle him from one kangaroo court to the other. See, Ebuka Obi is the one responsible for what Ijele is going through right now. And I heard that this guy is seriously sick. I think he's having renal failure. And still they are holding him there. And this is coming from someone that claimed to be a man of God. Hustler of God anyway. Hustler of God, not man of God. And we come here to defend this kind of charlatan, Ebuka Obi, and his likes. See, the way I feel about this issue, you would think that I have interest in this. No, I don't. It's just injustice. Who are you not to be called out? Ebuka Obi, you're a hustler. You are not a prophet. You are deceiving people. You are manipulating people because of the condition they found themselves in Nigeria right now. And then this Ijele called you out just the same way he called other people out. He called Jeremiah Omotofufe and all that. He called everybody out. Why is it just Ebuka Obi that arrested him? Ifonyemelo 1 year. Yoruba man did not arrest him. Ijaw man did not arrest him. But you, Igbo man, you want to flex muscle. You want to show yourself. Ebuka Obi is the one responsible for Ijele's predicament right now. He is the one responsible. Nobody should come and say otherwise here, please. Let's stand for justice. Ebuka Obi should come and let me take him to what they call it, Boromi Hospital, to pray for the sick, let them get healed. I know poor people, real poor people. Let me bring them to Ebuka Obi. Let them stay with Ebuka Obi for 1 month or 1 year, actually, without no job, without business. Let Ebuka Obi pray for them so that they will miraculously turn to billionaires. Has he teacher himself? He's making his money from his gullible followers. He has not prayed himself out of his poverty. And he's praying people out of their poverty, taking advantage of the predicament that we found ourselves in that country. He's not a prophet. Ebuka Obi, let him come and arrest me. If you want, I will drop my date that I will land in Mutara Mohammed, Nnamdi Azikiwe. Let him come and arrest me, idiot. Or Bakada Ofu Ijele. He doesn't have anyone that will speak for him. See, the day we embrace justice, regardless of where it's coming from, that is the day we will begin to have our senses back. Otherwise, we will still live in that Bongo country. If I name, thank you.
All right, thank you, Kenneth. Before we continue, let me just also point out that I'm surprised, I've never watched a book. I don't know who he is. It doesn't matter. These things are not about people. It's not about connection with people. You saw when Chidi was talking about Afe Babalola that he knew the children and knew the law firm, but that doesn't stop him from saying what he thinks is the truth or is the point that needed to be made. Sometimes we have this attachment to subjects, to people, to stories that it covers our eyes from what the reality is. So in this case of I have never watched I don't know what he does. I know the name, but maybe I've seen the video. I don't even know that's him. I don't know, but I will look at it. But it doesn't matter. The point is simply that you cannot. I don't want to live in a society where somebody can just petition a police department and they'll come and pick someone up and that's it. You start running around finding 50 million to bail yourself from police cell for what? Anyway, sure.
Yes, thank you for coming back to me again. I had to Google Ebuka Obi as they were speaking about him. When I saw his image, I was like, oh, I've seen this guy before. I do something, for my friends on my WhatsApp. I do something every Wednesday that I call the church series. I've got about 400 people on my WhatsApp, so I post all their stupid skits that they do and they call church services, the most ridiculous ones. There are thousands of them on the internet. So I have God knows how many. So on a Wednesday, I'll put it and I say, I'll just put a story to say, I'm going to midweek service, who's coming with me? So occasionally I'll forget and people will message me to say, oh, you didn't post midweek service. And I'll put something and I'll be like, at this point I walked out. So I know I've seen his face before. I'm sure I have some of his videos of some madness he's done in the past. But I didn't link the name. And the Ijele name, it's funny that only yesterday I heard about this Ijele guy. I was driving home from work. Because of this, your show that I joined, the way YouTube works, they've started recommending some Biafra Brig videos to me, and half of it they'll be speaking Igbo. I'm like, what country is this? I don't even understand what they're saying. But the gist is good. So yesterday I listened to one guy who repeated himself like 10 times. The whole thing could have been 10 minutes, but it lasted about 50 minutes. I didn't listen to all of it. But was saying how he was alleging, he was trying to piece things together, and he was saying Ijele, he played a video of Asare Dokubo, where Asare Dokubo said that DOS, I see that the Biafra people talk about a particular opponent, they're called the DOS. I think those are the opposite of the Brig, that the DOS, along with Nnamdi Kanu's wife. That is what Asare Dokubo said. There's actually a video of that the guy shared. That
Bianca.
That Bianca Ojukwu is allegedly the one behind Simon Ekpa's arrest. That's one of the reasons why she was brought into the government. So she was the one that wrote a petition and they gave her that portfolio specially. So she was the one that wrote the petition to the Finnish authority, and they sent a delegate of DOS. I don't know who this DOS, but I think it's Directorate of Service or something. The DOS, the Greek people talk about them a lot. That the DOS sent, Bianca sent a delegate of DOS, Nnamdi Kanu's wife, and Ijele. That's yesterday, about 24 hours ago, was the first time I heard the name Ijele. I was like, who is this one again? I've heard of Pastor Van Van Van. I'm just hearing different names. This is anyway. So when I go back home, I googled the Ijele guy. So it's funny that he came up today in this interview. Or that if you did this interview, if I listened to this interview 2 days ago, I wouldn't have known of Ijele. So it was only yesterday I found out about him, and I was like, oh, okay, so there's somebody, Ijele, like a social media influencer type of thing. So I agree with Kenneth to go back to what we're discussing today. And I'm sure Righteous Man, now that he's heard the way you guys have put it, and this is why these conversations are important. We don't have to bite each other's head off. You know, if people have an open mind, you can convince someone. You can change someone's mind by telling them how you see it. I'm sure Righteous Man is going away from here thinking, okay, Ijele might have been bad, but these guys have made me realize that, you know what, it's not about him. No matter how bad he is, let's reserve his right to fair trial. Do you understand? So this is why I like this sort of conversations. As much as people want to detract from it and say we sedate people, we do social engineering, we make people docile and all of that. But these conversations are important. So I think whatever the case is, we can be doing what the colonialists did to us. It's almost like the rich people, the elite in Nigeria have replaced the colonialists, and they are worse. Do you understand? The way they will just take you away and lock you up, and you have no right, keep quiet, they'll slap you. It's the same thing we are doing to one another. And it almost breaks my heart when I see, you know, you're doing it to someone who looks exactly like you. I can understand if an Igbo man does it to you because he thinks my nose is pointed, yours is flat, you're this, you're that, we're not the same, I don't like you. But how can you look at the next man and get the police to look, especially in our sort of prisons, and I mean, they're not meant for human beings. So you just lock someone there indefinitely. And like Showore said in the interview you had with him, in most cases, they want to punish you before trial because most of these cases might be thrown out, it might be long drawn, and nothing will happen at the end of it. But they just want to show you that I am bigger than you, I'm richer than you, will make you suffer. And also to send a message to those who might be trying to see anything about them, because it's a strong message. You know, I've seen a lot of journalists these days when they talk, you know, everybody's walking on eggshell. Before you know it, they'll come and carry you. They say bail is 50 million. If they ask Yaya Bello for 500 million, like because they've granted him bail, 500 million, you can find it from the alleged 110 billion and give them 500 million, no big deal. But if you go and carry Rudolph now, say 50 million, this one that super chat is not.
The appeal I will be calling. Oh, I have only one phone call. Oh, do they actually give people phone call in Nigeria? I don't know. Nigerian police.
Exactly. So I think we can all do better, regardless of what Dele Farotimi wrote what he wrote. Somebody has, I mean, and I know the plan is to overwhelm him. Now there's a lawsuit in Abuja. There's one in Ibadan. There's one in Port Harcourt. I'm sure by the end of the year, there'll be a lawsuit in every state. Do you understand? But the fact is, even if he's going from one state to another, let him have the freedom to go and defend himself. The idea of locking him up and the humiliation of taking him to court in handcuffs, until that became a big deal on social media. Then the next day when he went to court, there were no handcuffs. So when people say we do social media, yes, we do it because it works. You want me to go and listen to NTA? Allegedly, the NTA crew that covered Edo State House of Assembly, of the 600 billion that is confusing me, allegedly they picked those guys up because they told them to stop streaming live, but that thing became public. It is alleged that they picked them up. The NTA crew.
I didn't know that.
Do you understand? So if your governor can't read, he can't read. How is that anybody's problem? But because it became public, we can, for how long are we going to do this? Anyway, KJ, let me pass the microphone.
Yeah, KJ, over to you. Maybe you can narrow down to what he said about his experience with El-Rufai. If you listen to that story, it will have been exactly the same thing that happened to Dele Farotimi.
Yes.
Yeah, their goal is always to come and surprise you, pick you up, you start hustling, trying to find a way to free yourself. Go ahead from there.
Yes, you know, it's a those of us who lived long enough in Nigeria know this style. I said it here before. A friend of mine was taken to court on a divorce case. He was served first, second, third, and he never knew what was going on. Okay? And the case was going on. And eventually, the court ruled, because in all time that he appeared, the judge said he had said yes to the charges the woman brought. The woman had alleged that he beat her up, locked her in the house for 3 days, didn't let her go anywhere, and she was hungry all that while. And okay, I'll just go ahead and call the state court where this case was held in Benue State High Court. And on the third count, the guy that was appearing on his behalf accepted that it's true, and the rule and divorce and the case was squashed. And here he was sitting in Abuja, minding his own business, doing his own thing, and voila, the court paper landed that the court has separated. So he rushed back to his to go and find out what happened. They say, but you have been appearing here now, you accepted that is what you did. This is what they don't want to see the light of day. And the case of Odinkalu, it didn't surprise me. Like I said, he played a lot of vital role when he was in Abuja as the head of the human rights. He stepped on many toes because he will all tell them to their face, And when they bring those, they are very side kind of trying to, He did a lot of work, especially for journalists in Abuja. Because at that time, if you say I'm taking the case to human rights, everybody backs up because they know that the human right will come after you. But eventually, when he left the human rights, it wasn't exactly what he used to be when he was there. So now I'll pivot back to the case in point, which is the Dele Farotimi's case. As you see, that is exactly what it is. They take you unawares. You'll be sitting in your house drinking your gari, and they just surround your house, carry you, and when they carry you, that is it. If you have nobody, you see, that's what I said in Abuja. If you have nobody, the next 3 months you may not see the sky, and that's their intention, to show you that they control the system. And when eventually you are able to make it out, even if you see the story in passing or see a news feed in passing, you will not go near it. So the case now is that they know that there's going to be a lot of fallout from what Dele Farotimi had written. There are other lawyers who are also radicals who want to, say things like this. But, they are going to use this guy. If they can't even get him to prison, they will make sure that he spends Christmas in jail. That's the goal. And I asked myself this question, just like Odinkalu said, what do you have to lose? You are 90-something, for crying out loud. In fact, you even made it worse. And then what I wanted to ask him was that, how crazy is the judgment in Abuja now that they think they can now just impose a ruling around the whole world that nobody should buy the book any longer? It's been banned, and all the proceeds must go to the man. Did the judge smoke something? How can even this ruling that he gave, can he even cover Benin Republic just by their side? So you see, that is the mentality we have, which is what we have been trying to deal with on this channel, is that we are not living in a bubble. We're not the big fish in the small pond. We're a small fish inside the ocean. Nobody even knows we exist. I'm telling you the truth. So now you are doing all this and thinking that whatever you're doing is not being seen around the world because you're still thinking the days of NTA. Okay? But that's not going to work any longer. And I keep saying this. If the Nigerian media don't take time, they're totally going to annihilate themselves from the public. People will now go to social media to find their own information. Because you can see what's going on in the Nigerian media space. Dele Farotimi has become the bad guy. It's no longer that you are discussing this issue based on its merit. What is the truth? what the guy is saying. Is it true? Have other people had that experience? Have you bothered to investigate other lawyers, even if they don't want to say you can say you anonymous source told you this? Have you gone to state high courts? Have you been able to do any form of investigation whatsoever to find out if what he was alluding to in that book is correct? No. But every day you sit down behind the camera and you just go, you cannot just rubbish a man who has put 60 years. If your 60 years is stupid 60 years, what do you have to not rubbish it? If the 60 years you put, if people were putting 60 years and it was good, we will be in the foreign land. Will Nigeria be where it is? You are putting 60 years, we don't have electricity. You are putting 60 years, we don't have good roads. You are putting 60 years, the judiciary can't even stand on its feet. You have not even been able to make the judiciary to be independent of the executive or the legislator. And you say you're putting 60 years of jurisprudence. When they say jurisprudence, you look as if they are coming down from heaven. My brother, they are not coming down from any heaven. Because, some people think that they even want to find out whether we still have laws in Nigeria. Because now totally a lawless, country. If you ask me, a lawyer of the same question I asked him, I'm sorry, I'll run up with that. The same question I asked about Wike. Wike is a lawyer. Wike is a lawyer that can say, if the heaven lie, let it fall down. In fact, if the heaven falls down now, it will be good because we don't have to fast and pray again for us to go to heaven. It will have been come down. That is a government official who is supposed to be a priest in the temple of justice, doing injustice to people and being proud of it. What else do we need to know from what Dele Farotimi had written, from what is being practiced? The people are in court, but they are breaking down their houses. So, do we need any more further proof? You people are playing it out. You went to Lagos, you smuggled a man from Lagos to Ekiti. You go to Ekiti, you put him in prison. And within 24 hours, they already charge him and everything done. What else do we need to be rocket science to make sense? To make sense what you are written and say this is happening? No, you just played it out all. I end there. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Before I come back to you, Kene, let me play a little bit of the day that Ijele came on the show, 90 Minutes Africa, because he was...
Oh, he's been.
Yeah. Not 90 minutes. I think Javier said. Let me play that.
Oh.
So I thank you and I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.
See, Mohammed Aminu said something. I don't want to talk about this sit at home without going deep down into why it was instituted in the first place. People can just go around the issue, jump around it, but one thing is for certain. As at today, 10th of December 2022, there has never been a single Igbo man or woman that has made a single move to achieve Biafra. Let's start from there. And please, some of you may love Biafra too much, you may cherish it. I have nothing against you. But don't try to rob us of our identity as Igbo. There was never any place called Biafra within the current territory of Nigeria. If you pull up that 18th century map they are peddling, go and check where that bite of Biafra is. And the place is in current day Cameroon. If there is any part of Nigeria that would claim that, it would be the north. And that name, where did it come from? It's not an indigenous name to Ndi Igbo. Let's even start from there. I don't want to go back into the history because anyone who knows the Portuguese history of exploration, they will know exactly where the name Biafra came from. It is just the new Mafra. Those guys, those Portuguese, they came from Mafra. You can research this name I'm giving you right now. Biafra, Biafra. That is second, like you have York in the UK and you have New York in the USA. Like you have England in the UK and you have New England in the USA. That's where that name came from. Meanwhile, all these things about Biafra, I guarantee you there is nobody. Let them bring the document. Mohammed Aminu made mention of the Montevideo Convention of 1933. Go pull it up. See everything that was stipulated over there. 4 articles. 4 articles. And one of them, the most important one, is that before you get a country, it must go through the parliament. And in Nigeria, it will involve both houses of parliament. Then it...
All right. I will probably repost that so that people will know. And that's something that bothers me sometimes. There are people who do not get the media. They also deserve, because anybody who is unjustly locked up should be, people should talk about them equally. I remember during the interview, see when Chidi was mentioning people who have been locked up. There are so many people who are locked up for whatever reason by people like church leaders. We just get mad and lock up people, governors. In fact, as we speak, yesterday or 2 days ago, a journalist was picked up in Abia State and taken to Abuja for something he wrote. And when you are a journalist in the regional or state level, most people don't know your name, they don't know you exist, and you don't have the support system that will fight for you. So that's one thing that I hope it changes. I hope there's an institution that will be out there, just fighting for these people. One other thing, if you look at that video, you saw that Kene was very young there.
Yeah, he looked like Wike. You know the picture of Wike. People used to mock him to say he's aged. That Wike plum. He looked everybody. I mean, I know Oga was chatting. He was joking in the comment section when I said
that was just last year, Abby.
No, it was 22.
Oh, really?
It can be,
man.
Oga, I know guys in the comment section.
I was thinking it was just last year.
No, maybe you've not noticed, Oga, when there are guests on Sundays, I don't usually turn up. I don't have questions for anybody. If I ask you a question, what's your answer going to do to Nigeria?
Dr. Damage, you're talking about people being picked up and then locked up without justice.
Okay, can you hold on? Let's show finish.
Okay.
No, I was just saying that, that video is the first time I'm saying it. I know a guy was joking that I'm feigning ignorance that I didn't know the show aired. Never heard of the guy. Yeah. I didn't see that. Even looking at this now, Kene look so young. Ngozi look like she's 20.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw some old faces. That crack it. Oh, sorry, I'm talking about.
Come on.
RBL.
I know the person you are talking about.
I mean, I had forgotten about him completely.
To demand Biafra, at least you should.
I mean, look at the faces.
I think I need to. Maybe he was in Finland. Maybe. I know the person you are talking about. You're talking about the
RBL.
Yeah.
RBL, Ismiri. These are faces I've not seen in such a long time.
Yeah.
And most Sundays I listen sometimes, but I don't follow the Sunday thing except there are people that really, I have questions for. I just don't come for the sake of asking questions. A few things I just want to say before I leave, because I know we're rounding off quickly. Not to take us away from what we're discussing. I hope that Dele Farotimi regains freedom soon. I hope that they don't kill him, because he might not die while he's there now, but you don't know the situation of things. Like I keep saying, my first cousin, name drop, BC Onobanjo, was my first cousin. One of the things that killed him was the fact that he didn't get his medications, proper health care when the coup happened in 1983, and he was locked up by Buhari, and Dia took over from him in Ogun State. So we're not sure what sort of medical care Dele is getting. Like people like Nnamdi Kanu, every day you hear something is wrong with him. Some of them, they come out and they never fully recover, and it's going to be a slow process and they just die off. So I hope that, it won't be a case similar to, Nigerians love their heroes when they're dead. I'm not sure if it's like that all over the world. When people talk about Gani Fawehinmi, you would think he was loved when he was alive. Gani ran for office. Go and check his results. Do you understand? Dele Giwa, when we talk about Dele Giwa now, everybody's like, oh, Dele Giwa. But when he was alive, how many people actually loved him? The same thing people are doing to Dele Farotimi now. God forbid the man dies. You will now see some love and you'll be thinking, who are these lovers of Dele Farotimi? So I hope he regains his freedom. And also, I've listened to a few people talk about this case, that the reason why they think Chief Babalola took the criminal route, well, the Americans are trying to pollute my English. God forgive me, God forbid. The criminal route is because if it's a civil case, the day Chief Babalola dies, the case dies. But if it's a criminal case, the case will continue even after the demise of Chief Babalola in this case. So I think that's why I've listened to a few lawyers say that's why it's gone the criminal route. And on a positive note, before I leave you, I think I told you, Rudolph, when we spoke, the Nigerian passport system renewal, I know it's totally away from what we're discussing, I apologize, but a miracle happened yesterday. My friend's wife in the UK left their town in Bedfordshire, went to London for biometrics. I know that people have been receiving their passport 3-4 days after they go and capture, which is a miracle on its own. But she was there yesterday around 1 p.m. She left there 1 p.m. She got her passport today around 12, less than 24 hours. So Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, as much as we criticize them when they do wrong, this guy, I know he still has issues with the prisons and customs because they all come under him. But this passport one, whatever he's doing, he should keep doing it. The only problem is, today now, when I told people, one of my friends said, oh, let me quickly apply. When he applied, the next capture date available is the 10th of April. But when you go and capture, you get it in record time.
Yeah.
So Dr. Damages, can I say something, please? My internet disappointed me. That was why I was off the platform.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, have you been appointed? You say it disappointed you, your internet. I'm asking if you have been appointed now by the internet.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You know, when Dr. Rudolph finished his submission, I really got to know exactly what was involving Ijele and Ebuka. I never had that part of the story. And if you listen to what I said thank you for the update. So having said thank you for the update means I agreed with what he said. And I don't think that after making that submission, thank you for your update, there is any reason why, again, for somebody to chastise me, for whatever submission I had made. I made it based on the knowledge of information I had within that content. But when he expanded it, I submitted to his submissions and I said, thank you for the update. So it's not as if I am glorying in someone else being subjected to manhandling or being, handled roughly because of what he has said or not. No. I didn't get that part of information that Ebuka wrote a petition against him. I was not aware, honestly speaking. And if you heard what I said at my early statement, I said, I'm not a fan of Ebuka. I never been there and I will not go. But I thought what kept him there was all the statements he made against Nnamdi Kanu and Jeremiah. And I also knew that he made some statements against Ebuka, but I never knew a petition came from Ebuka against him. So I just want to update all of us that I agree with the submission Dr. Rudolph made. And Ekene, what you said, I'm not against it. I can never be party to somebody facing injustice because I hate it and I fight against it. That's just what I want to say. And again, I want to ask a show, since you are within Europe or London per se, what Kemi said in reply to Vice President Shetima, that she is not of Nigeria, that she's more of Yoruba than being a Nigerian. So I thought it's a cause for concern. What are we saying about that? It looks as if everybody is denying being a Nigerian. It's like, no. And from what she said, looking at the position she's holding and her personality, then I don't think that somebody should blame anybody who comes up to say I'm a Biafran, I'm not a Nigerian. I just want to make that chip in that word. Thank you.
So let me see if I can say this, if it would answer your question. You see, there's a saying, it's a popular saying that failure is an orphan. Success has many fathers.
And let me also add that tomorrow on Have Your Say 247, we are going to discuss that, Kemi and Shetima. So that's on these topics for tomorrow.
Okay. Just a quick one, right? Shosho.
Yes, sir.
I overheard you commending the new passport chief. I don't know his name. But yeah, maybe we've forgotten so soon. That we used to have passport ready within 2 hours.
I know.
Yes. So if this new guy now is doing something that has never been done in Nigeria, then I will commend him. For example, if he can make passport available in less than 2 hours, I will commend him. But it's all the same, since we are used to suffering. Now, every little adjustment will be happy. That is fine. I think we are making progress. Now, Ijele, when Nnamdi Kanu was arrested, Ijele was mocking Nnamdi Kanu. He actually wished Nnamdi Kanu by in jail. And I remember I went through his Ijele, right?
Mm.
Yeah, is Igbo. Yeah. So that was actually what my anger over Ijele, my dislike for Ijele started dying. I know that he has been in the opposition with Biafra stuff, but I've never, say anything against him. He has his own opinion, right? But the day he wished Nnamdi Kanu
he was a member. He was a member.
Yes, they had issues. Yeah, they had issues, and they had to go his way and then begin to attack them. So now I was like, okay. I went to his program and I wrote, "What if you were picked up tomorrow?" I remember vividly. I wrote, "What if you were picked up tomorrow and then treated the same way Nnamdi Kanu is being treated? How would you feel?" He blocked me. I said, "Okay, no wala." Now he was arrested. I was not happy the way he was arrested. Anything that is not in line with justice, it pisses me off. And in as much as he wished the other person by, I would never wish him by. Now, Dr. Damages was talking about how people are being picked up in Nigeria. Just recently, one Igbo man in Lagos State was narrating his own story, that he just come to his shop and the police officers came and picked him up. He told his boys that he's coming back. He thought that he was just going to the police station to know what his crime was and then maybe enter his own statement and come back. And that was it. He was locked up for years. I think it's about 7 years or 8 years. He just got released. His life destroyed. His business, everything went down. So people, my pain is not just the arrest, but the kind of things, the destruction you will put in that person's life. There are people under him. There are people he cares for. There are people he provides for, which means if you pick this man up, you've cut off those people under him. They will begin to suffer. His children may not go to school again. His mother, maybe hunger and health challenges, our inability to afford for medication will bring to our eye early, So there are a lot of people that will suffer when you do this kind of things. And that is one thing these people don't understand. If it is politicians, I can insult politicians the way I like. But when I see a supposed clergy that is supposed to be Christ-like, doing something like devil-like, I don't know where to equate this kind of people. Because I don't know if I say opposite of Christianity, I don't know what it is now. I don't know where to equate them. I don't know, man. See, I'm tired, man.
Ekene, my brother. Ekene.
Yeah, sorry.
Ekene.
That's man. Not that I was attacking you.
Let me help you. Let me help you out. Let me help you out. Ekene, let me help you out. You see, the issue of Ijele, Ijele comes from the same local government of the the governor of Imo State.
Yes.
Okay. And accidentally, that's my own local government too. Okay. So Ijele was invited by the police. I watched and listened to his last broadcast before he went to the police. He was invited. And in that his broadcast, he was boasting that he is going to jail those who wrote petition against him. When they get there, his lawyers followed him. He didn't go there alone. He was not arrested. He went to the police station himself. And then they went to court from there. I think he was detained 2 days. Then the next day, they charged him to court. It was from the court he was reminded, because I was following the case up. But I never knew where that petition came from, because in his submission, in his broadcast, he never mentioned Ebuka wrote petition against him. He was mentioning Jeremiah. And I thought it was Jeremiah that actually wrote that petition. But when Dr. Rudolph updated me or us on the issue, I said, okay, at least let me learn from that angle that it was Ebuka. So the guy was not arrested. He went to the police himself, and then they charged him to court after 2 days detention. From there, he was reminded from the court.
All right. Thank you, righteous man. KJ, we are rounding up. KJ, unless you want to take it to 7, but we are rounding up.
No, let's round up.
Yeah. And I just want to give a reminder that on Sunday we have a special guest. Most of you know him, Nemeka Onyeka Obiara Eli, will be our guest on 90 Minutes Africa. And then, of course, tomorrow we have our usual Have Your Say 247 that will start at 12 noon here in New York. And then 6 p.m. in Nigeria. So one final thoughts. Let me come to you, Kenny, before we close shop.
Final thoughts.
Yeah.
Same. You see, when we try to differentiate ourselves, I mean, the way we behave from these so-called rulers, it's very difficult to actually trying to separate these rulers from our supposed clergymen, because they behave alike. They behave the same people. The only difference is that the other ones go through election, they get voted in. Then the other one get anointed by their spirit, and they work together against the masses. And what we are saying, in essence, is how do we begin to bring in civility in our society when the people that are supposed to work with us, the people that we think have some influence that will work with us against barbaric act from these politicians, are also behaving like them? It's difficult because I go online, I attack politicians, nobody insult me. If I do same with clergymen, they will insult my mama and my papa out. So it's difficult to differentiate these people because they have strong followers, ardent followers. You know, I don't know. Nigeria, it is what it is already. See, oh man, I don't even know what to submit. The thing is, whoever that is keeping Ijele should remember that this life will only have max 120 to live, and we are gone. And how would you feel if you are the one in that jail and you have no one to speak for you, and you are passing through this health condition, and yet you are still kept there, no proper medical attention? How would you feel? How about if they do that to your child tomorrow when you are no more and your child has no one to speak for him? Same way you are keeping in Nnamdi Kanu, whoever that is keeping Nnamdi Kanu, should remember that we don't own this world. We are just passerbys. You know, one day we are gone, and you leave a good legacy, you will be remembered by that. If you leave a devilish legacy like the one that Tinubu and Buhari are living now, you remembered, you know, by those legacies that you leave. You know, so our supporters of Zion Ministry will move. Please tell your Oga to go and do like Christ did. He's represented Christ, so he should be behaving like one. He shouldn't be behaving like devil. I don't want to beg him. I cannot beg that small boy. Let him do the right thing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kene. KJ.
Yeah. If Evangelist Ebuka is hearing us, since he's an evangelist and I respect people who have the title, let him do what Christ will do. When they came to arrest Christ, his disciples pulled out the knife, the sword, and cut off one of the ear of the soldiers who have come to arrest him. And he said to them, no, if it was a thing of force, I will call down 12 legions. 12 legions means how many thousands of 72,000, I think, angels to fight on his behalf. But it's not a question of strength. It's a question of, in fact, the name Christ, Jesus Christ, means absolute authority put under control. So as a man of God, you should know that you have absolute authority, but you should put it under control. You don't have to punish the man for you to show that you are powerful. In fact, if you are truly doing what you are doing, and I believe you are doing what you are doing because I see you have a lot of followers, you will not be subject to him because you will see him as somebody who does not understand. Jesus was hanging on the cross and he looked down and said, Father, forgive them for they do not know what they are doing. I will implore you, sir, if you don't mind, to forgive him because he doesn't know what he's doing. Even if you think he has wronged you, release him for the sake of his people, for the sake of his family, for the sake of the country, so that we can see that the justice seems to be done. I thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. We send that message to Ebuka. Sure.
Yes, thank you. Kenny, just to answer your question quickly, you were wondering why if you insult politicians, you don't get much people coming for you. That's because it is divided. So if you attack Tinubu, APC supporters would come for you. 8 million people voted for him, according to INEC. And they said their voters are not online, remember. So that's why you don't see a lot of them come for you. But when you attack the emojis, you see, their supporters cut across all parties. You get people from APC, PDP, Labour Party, NCNC, Action Group. they are everywhere. So that's why you get more people attack you when you speak against their little gods. In rounding off, so this is the part where you say, "What is keeping you up at night?"
Yes, I remember that.
Yes, I was just reflecting on, those days when you say what's keeping you up at night, leading up to the election, and most times my answer was the thought of Tinubu becoming president. I kept saying it as it. All these other people are giving plenty essays. That is what was keeping me up at night. The thought of the president Tinubu, and here we are today. But nothing is keeping me up at night. We'll suspend that till 2026. And it will be the thought of President Tinubu being re-elected, according to INEC. Thank you. Once again, I would like to say to the people watching right now, we have 57 people watching. I know that not all of you are subscribed, and you know inside your heart. So don't let us call Pastor Ebuka on you. Please click subscribe. Just one click. They won't charge you extra. It won't drain your data. Just click. For those watching live, thank you for joining us.
It's free.
It's free.
It's free. We're not asking for money. It's free.
Exactly.
Free.
And for those of you that will watch this tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, and those of you that will watch it in January 2025 and February 25, and even in 2026 and 2027, by then we will have reached 100,000 subscribers, 200,000, but still subscribe. So it is me from the future talking to you now. Please just click on subscribe. Doesn't cost nothing. It helps the channel spread the good news. Thank you and good night.
All right, thank you so much. Righteous Man, final words.
Yeah.
As the elder.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Rudolph, KJ, Ekene, and Sho. It's been nice talking to you guys and listening to you from all of you this night. And the professor, in fact, I'm very blessed today. My sleep will be like that of a baby because he gave me what I really needed to hear. But my fear is this. I have this inner fear in me. Can Nigeria ever work? Because if you listen to the professor, his analysis, he's a cool guy. You begin to doubt if the possibility of Nigeria working is there. Can Nigeria still work? Because from everything, from every analysis, we're on a very wrong path. And there is no path that is working well. Our president have written to World Bank. They are giving him $500 million loan that is going to obtain any moment from now. Where this money, where the money are being channeled to, we don't know. We that are down here in Nigeria, we're not seeing the effect of all this borrowing. We're not seeing the effect. It's not electricity, it's not good road, it's not Medicare. There is nothing, it's not even job. The business is going down. We've had, most people don't drive their cars on the road again. The Lagos road, what you see on the Lagos road is the yellow buses and Danfo and Korope and Marwa. That's what fill the Lagos road, because individuals that have their cars, some have sold their cars or some just parked it at home because the cost of living and maintenance is too high. So I don't know if Nigeria will work in a nearer future, because the indices does not point to that. What we are facing here, every day when I wake up and look at it, in fact, let me just say this bad news anyway. Our chief gate man, I was just coming back from work this evening, around 7 o'clock, 7:30 Nigerian time. I saw people gather at our gates because I'm living in a secluded environment. So I was asking the woman, I said, Mama, what is it? I saw people, they were crying. They said, that man slumped and died, you know. And it could be as a result of hardship. How much is he being paid as a gate man? So this is what Nigerians are facing on daily basis. And we see these millions and billions being taken away, and life just keep going on like that. We keep rolling it as if nothing is happening. You know, it pains me with the revelation coming from Dokubo. And I don't know whether tomorrow Ekene will expatiate on it. Whether actually Bianco Juku was part of those who wrote the letter that indicted the prime minister in exile.
It's not possible.
Because
forget it. Not possible.
I had her said, Nnamdi Kanu, I'm quoting Bianca. I had her when she was interviewed and asked question. She said Nnamdi Kanu will be released soon. So I don't know what is going on. I am really bothered.
I watched that video. I think it's a cut and join video. I don't believe it. I don't think.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Righteous man, we'll talk about all those issues tomorrow. Let me
okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, let me reassure you by telling you this. The ideals of Nigeria, they have not been tried and found wanting. They've been found difficult and left untried. So, and part of the reason is what we're dealing with now, which is to say that the same quote I always say, that the people, Nigeria is a failed nation, but it's a failed nation because it works for the people who failed it. So until we deal with these two issues, they are connected, and that's why it's the way it is. It's not that it's impossible, but it's just that the people who are benefiting from the country are the people who failed it, and the structure works for them, and they have no incentive to change that. On that note, I will just play a small video, 2-minute video of what I think about this issue of delay, and then we'll call it a day. I will see you guys tomorrow. So thank you again for joining us, everybody.
When Bishop David Oyedepo slapped that young woman who said she was a witch for Jesus, who were you mad at? Bishop Oyedepo or the young woman? Now, if you have forgotten, watch the video again. Take a look.
I'm not a witch. I'm a witch for Jesus.
You are what?
My own witch is for Jesus.
You are a foul devil. Do you know who you are talking to? Foul devil.
Yes, I was mad at that foul devil of a young woman. How could she go to the holy man of God's church and poop all over the place from her mouth? Why? What a disrespect. What an audacity. Now the good thing was that nonsense ended well. Our daddy in the Lord dispatched the young woman to hell because she was not ready for deliverance. But the young woman apologized, and the man of God chased away the demons in the young woman. See, that is what Afe Babalola wants with Dele Farotimi. Thank you, Afe Babalola, for making me understand that our peculiar mess. I didn't understand it until you picked up Dele Farotimi. Thank you. Christmas and New Year are around the corner. Have you ensured that your loved ones in Nigeria, Ghana, and Cameroon have everything they need for a perfect Christmas feast? Are you? If you haven't, don't worry. It is not too late. The good people of Help Me Waka are ready to help you. They have special packages for you. They include hampers, fresh livestock, and groceries. Yes! Isn't that wonderful? Help Me Waka services are the best choice out there. They are convenient and reliable. No stress, no worries. Help Me Waka takes care of everything while you focus on the holidays. With Help Me Waka, you know your loved ones will be smiling on Christmas morning. What is better than that? Don't wait for the last minute rush. Place your orders with Help Me Waka now and enjoy a stress-free holiday. DM Help Me Waka today or visit their website to get started. When you mention Dr. Damages in the description, you get the best discount. Yes! If you